Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be demonstrating the next phase after we get our dog comfortable in the kennel. How do we want that puppy to advance closer to the ultimate goal of place training? So right here, we have a little contraption that we like to use where we have their place bed, we have their dog bed inside of their puppy pen. Now, a lot of owners have these puppy pens completely open where they have the entire 20 square foot area available to the puppy, and there will be toys in there, maybe some potty pads, some food dishes, a water dish. Right now we have it closed down to as tight on the dog's bed as we can. We just want a boundary, a border around that dog bed. Now when these puppies are even smaller, this should be appropriately sized. You can break these down to a single panel on each side, a four-sided panel, to where it's just a small little, Pomeranian-sized dog bed in there. And for most of our puppies, that will work for the early stages of their life. Now, this is something that you don't need to rush. I want you to wait until you get to the point where your dog is comfortable inside of their actual kennel crate and the whining and crying throughout the day has subsided or almost gone away completely before we start inserting in this portion of it. But all this does is it helps your dog feel a little bit more open and involved in the environment, while also giving them a physical boundary that's going to help them control their emotions, control them physically, and ultimately settle. So as you can see here, Rush is going through that loop that your puppy may have something similar where they settle, they get up, they wander, they settle again. So if this is happening for you, this is why we don't have toys in here. We don't have bones. We don't have anything in here for them to do. We just want them to naturally learn how to settle and how to relax. Once they do that consistently, then the fence can start to go away when we're able to monitor, and we can start to take piece by piece away. But this is essentially the same thing as the kennel. We've just taken the roof away and we've given him more space to roam around. And also, we use those Rufflin kennels, so I know everyone's got a different kennel setup, but these metal panels are easier for them to see through. They feel more involved in the family environment. So if you have like a mesh one that has a ceiling and everything else, this can feel much more open to your dog, which can cause them to take longer to settle in a position. It can cause them to feel a little bit more energetic or anxious, but that's why we're exposing them to this. Now, your big things that you want to watch still is you still have to monitor your dog. This will give you the ability to kind of leave the room for a second and come back. Every puppy is going to be different, but some puppies, like our young Wisla, she would try to climb out of this when she would get impulsive. And she would stop after we marked it no and disrupted that, but you still need to be present. This is not an overnight thing. This is not something to put them in and leave the room for 2 hours at a time while you watch a movie. This is something that we still do with our dog when we're generally in the area and we're watching them. And this is, if it becomes too big for your dog and it becomes counterproductive where they're constantly zooming and they won't settle, then maybe that's too big of a dog bed for now and we need to collapse this overall pen down a little bit just to give them some help to settle, because the smaller and tighter that dog bed is, that section that they have, the easier it's going to be for them to settle. If you're looking to insert this into your routine, I want you to use this in lieu of your kennel. Again, once your puppy is able to settle in those public environments inside your home and does not vocally protest when we put them in the kennel when there's activity going on around us. Once we're able to handle that, let's start transitioning to the pen with the dog bed, and then we can go into how to do the same kennel duration drills with this pen and then eventually just with the bed. Video, we're going to be going over how to advance that mental duration and the impulse control that we started at the kennel with your puppy. And we're advancing that now to the pen with the dog bed and then eventually to just the place bed with no border around it, okay? So all the concepts still remain the same. We want to make sure that we're using our verbal marker of no to enforce the boundaries of the object we want our dog to settle on. So think of this as a more advanced kennel because we've removed the top and these walls are a little bit more see-through from the kennel that we use. And then over here we have the place bed that obviously is the most advanced because we have no walls around it, no ceiling on it. It is just a mesh bed with no boundaries. But I want you guys to be very clear with your puppy what is the acceptable boundaries and what's not. We have to make sure that they understand that they have to stay on the object and that half on, half off, or completely off is unacceptable, and we want to correct that so that way it makes it clearer for them and it makes it easier for them to be successful. Here we have a setup with the dog pen that is a little bit bigger, as tight as I can make it, to the actual dog bed that I want my dog to learn how to lay on and how to settle on. So this is the beginning stages of place training. We've already worked it down with the kennels, and now we're doing it with the actual dog bed. We just happen to have a little bit of training wheels with the fence around it. So it's the same concept. We have the leash, which we recommend. A 10-footer would be about ideal for inside the home, just to give us some distance away from our puppy and still have control with them. And then it's the same concept. We open up that threshold, that gate, and that does not mean that our puppy can run out. If they do, it's okay. They're going to make mistakes, and that's how they're going to learn. But if they do come out before we release them, we mark it with the no and we reset them however we can, with spatial pressure, with leash pressure, or with using that kennel gate if you're still at that stage. But once we can get to this point, remember to use your body. We're squared up to your puppy. We're moving around, facing them constantly, teaching them that, hey, we're engaged with you. This is almost like my first line of defense with keeping them in. And then, as quickly as you can, I want you to learn how to disengage with your puppy and teach your puppy that that still means carry on with what you're doing. So I'm totally disengaged. I'm rotating different directions. I might go off camera a little bit, but here is where you can go all the way around your dog. You can go into the other room and come back, and then you can reinforce periodically, bringing all of your treats and reinforcement back to our puppy here inside the pen, inside the object. When you're ready for them to release, you can use either the recall command or the break command. I like to default more towards the recall because you're getting more reps in and it keeps them at a little bit of a calmer mental state. Come. Yes. And so we can reinforce that. And this is where you can have a little bit of flexibility with what you do with your pup. You can have them chase kibble across the floor. You can play with them with their toy. You can practice walking. You can practice luring. But then when you're ready for them to practice a calm mental state again, place. You can give them the place command. Hopefully they start to default into the down position like Rush just did, and we can reward that. If your dog goes in there and just stands at the gate, that's okay. That's where they usually start, but just start your movements. And then if they decide to follow you, you correct them and reset them. If they decide to sit and eventually lay down, then you know you're on the right path. You're on the right track moving forward. We are transitioning now to using the place command when we're using the pen. It's different than the kennel cue, and so we want to make sure that we're staying consistent with our expectations. I just like to get ahead of using place because that's what we're going to transfer to as we advance to an object that has no fence around it. Once your puppy becomes proficient with this place command with the kennel crate around it, then you can transfer over here to just the regular dog bed. In this video, we just have a mesh elevated bed. You can put your comfy bed on top of it. You can just use a comfy one. Just remember what we said, that the higher elevation sometimes helps your dog understand those boundaries and it can make it simpler for them. So now this is really on you to establish those clear boundaries. How clear you're being and how consistent you're staying with enforcing these boundaries is going to determine how quickly your puppy picks up on this. Because Rush laid down on his own, I'm going to mark that. Those are signs that your dog is understanding to settle physically and mentally in these positions. So this is where you really can start to advance the training. And as we move around our pup, you see they sit up and they lay back down again. Just continue working. Remember what I said, if they make a mistake, you just continue setting that sight picture up again for your dog until they settle back into that final position. You can go left, you can go right. Eventually, you should be able to drop this leash. And as I move away, I'm still always keeping some kind of attention on my puppy, even if it doesn't look like it. So that way, when they step off, I can quickly and effectively give them that guidance to no, go back to your place. If your dog takes off across the room to come join you on the couch, then I always recommend mark it no, and then just get up, grab the leash, and walk them back to the place bed, and then release the pressure, leave them there, and walk away and set it up again. If you sit there on the chair or the couch and just yell at them to place and try to point from far enough away, they're not going to understand that at this age. It's much easier, simpler, and more fair to just get up after we've marked it no and go back and reset them. But this is the final product of what this should look like. Our dog should be settled into the down, preferably napping, but here Rush is not super sleepy. He's engaged with me because we're training, and he still has the ability to self-soothe, be on his object, have his boundaries, and then it allows me and the other members of my family to move from room to room, to cook meals, to have kids play, to have activities that are normal throughout the day to happen. And it doesn't mean that he can't join in. It just means that he has to work on impulse control, respecting boundaries, the mental endurance, the mental duration of an obedience command. These are all going to be beneficial life skills that are going to help us when we leave the home, help us when we have guests come over, and help him naturally and mentally develop into a calmer all-around dog. And that's what I want for him, is to be confident, be calm, and this is such a crucial step to be doing this. When you're at this stage that your pup can start to place and hold those boundaries when you're home and you're watching him, this should take over the majority of what your dog is doing throughout the day. This should be not a replacement for the kennel, because the kennel is so important for them to be doing every single day still, usually at night. And then when you guys can't physically watch your dog, they go into the kennel. But when you're out throughout the home and you're working from home, you're cooking, you're engaging with the family, you're sitting out front enjoying a cocktail, whatever the case may be, your dog can now be with you, but doesn't have to be pacing constantly, doesn't have to be playing constantly. I want you to maintain that balance of the structured routine, but this is a huge part of it now. So after play sessions, after training sessions, or even in between when we want to calm our dogs to a lower mental state, this is how you go ahead and do that. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next one.